Have you ever found yourself trying to please everyone around you? This feeling of wanting to be accepted by everyone is common, but at the same time, it is a task that seems impossible, and that most of the time only consumes us. Every attempt to gain the approval of others requires energy and diverts us from what really matters in our lives. And what really matters? Inner peace, authenticity, and the courage to live according to our own principles. Today we will learn from the teachings of Stoic philosophy and the wisdom of Socrates how we can free ourselves from this constant pressure and live a lighter and more truthful life. We do not need anyone's approval to be complete. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more reflections that can transform your way of thinking and live more fully. Let's go on this journey together. We've all been there. You make a decision and immediately find yourself thinking, what will other people think? The search for other people's approval is natural, but the problem begins when it becomes the center of our lives. The philosopher Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoic thinkers, warned us, concern yourself with what depends on you. The truth is that we cannot control the opinions of others. And the more we try to please everyone, the further we move away from who we really are. Each person has their own perspective, influenced by personal experiences, beliefs, and values. Trying to please everyone, we become like a boat adrift, being pushed by the waves of other people's expectations. No matter how hard you try, there will always be someone who disagrees and who is not satisfied. And if we get caught up in this incessant search for approval, we lose focus on the things we can truly control, such as our actions and choices. Stoicism teaches us to invest our energy in what is genuine and within our capacity to act. When we act according to our own reason and virtue, we are on the right path, regardless of the opinions of others. Socrates, for example, lived his life with such firm conviction that, even when sentenced to death, he did not let himself be shaken by social pressure. He said, "It's not what others think of us that matters, but what we think of ourselves." True freedom comes when we decide that our inner peace doesn't depend on external validation. By making decisions based on what's right, not what's popular, we begin to live with more authenticity and purpose. And that's the first step to true happiness. Other people's opinions are inevitable. Everyone around us has something to say, whether it's a compliment, a criticism, or even a hasty judgment. But do other people's opinions really carry the weight we usually give them? Stoicism teaches us to reflect on the true value of opinions. After all, most of the time they don't have the depth we imagine. Everyone makes judgments based on their own inner world, their experiences, their beliefs, and even their fears. And no matter how hard we try to please or change other people's perceptions of us, their opinions are still distorted reflections of what they believe to be true. If we live to please everyone, we are, in fact, trying to change these reflexes without ever reaching what really matters, our true essence. Epictetus once again reminds us, it is not the things that happen to us that disturb us, but the opinion we have about them. In other words, the problem is not external opinions, but how we react to them. If we give so much weight to what others think, we are allowing our inner peace to depend on something fickle, beyond our control. Instead of getting lost in criticism or praise, we should look within. Socrates, with all his wisdom, argued that self-knowledge is the key to true freedom. He said, "Know thyself." Only when we are clear about who we are can we begin to understand whether external opinions really have any impact on our happiness. And the answer often is no. Other people's opinions are just that, opinions. They do not define who we are, nor do they determine the value of our actions. The quest to please others takes us away from living in accordance with our own truth. And only when we let go of this need to please can we focus on something more important, being true to ourselves. Socrates, one of the greatest philosophers in history, was a shining example of someone who lived with courage and authenticity, regardless of the criticism he received. He did not seek the approval of the masses, nor did he care about being understood by everyone. His life was guided by one fundamental principle, the relentless pursuit of truth, not praise or popular acceptance. In one of the most decisive moments of his life, Socrates was sentenced to death for corrupting the youth and disrespecting the gods. But even when faced with this sentence, he remained true to his convictions. Instead of giving in to the pressure of his judges or trying to please the majority, he chose to be true to his principles and his mission of seeking true knowledge. As he himself said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." Socrates did not care about the opinions of others because he knew that external approval does not determine the value of a life. He believed that living according to reason and virtue was the path to a full life, not the recognition of others. He preferred to be true to himself, even if it meant being misunderstood or even hated. Socrates' example is an invitation to all of us. It teaches us that true freedom and authenticity come when we choose to live according to our own values without worrying about pleasing or being accepted. Sometimes this choice takes courage, because not everyone will agree. But as Socrates showed us, an authentic life built on truth is the only life worth living. At the heart of Stoic philosophy is the idea that virtue is the only true good. For the Stoics, living a virtuous life is the ultimate goal, not pleasing others or seeking recognition. But what does it mean to live virtuously? It means acting with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, regardless of the opinions that may surround us. When we focus on virtue, we are choosing what is within our control. We may not control the reactions of others, but we can always control how we act and react to the world around us. Stoic philosophy teaches us that true peace comes when we act according to our own reason and virtue, without the need for external validation. As Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoic emperors, stated, "You have power over your mind, not over events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This means that by focusing on our virtue rather than worrying about what others think or expect of us, we become stronger, more resilient, and more aligned with what truly matters. Unlike the constant search for approval, virtue is not something that can be manipulated or controlled by the opinions of others. It is an internal force that guides us to make decisions based on what is right, not what is popular. True happiness does not come from the acceptance of others, but from the continuous effort to act with integrity and wisdom, regardless of the recognition we receive. And remember, living according to virtue does not mean being perfect. It means recognizing our fallibility and still seeking to do what is right every day without letting the quest to please everyone divert us from that path. Imagine the burden we carry when we dedicate ourselves to pleasing everyone. With every step we take, with every decision we make, we are asking ourselves, will others like this? Will they support me? This type of thinking creates constant pressure and prevents us from acting freely. External expectations become a weight, something we have to carry along our path, often without even realizing it. The Stoic philosopher Seneca warns us about the danger of living to please others. It is not that we have little time, but that we waste so much of it. The time we spend worrying about what other people think of us is time we could be investing in something much more valuable, living according to our own convictions. Every time we put other people's expectations ahead of our own, we are sacrificing an important part of our authenticity and inner peace. When we try to please everyone, we are essentially trying to control something that is beyond our reach. External expectations are fickle and unpredictable. People change, opinions change, but our integrity and our values are the only things we can consistently control, and that is liberating. Freedom comes when we stop carrying the weight of other people's expectations and start living according to what we truly believe. By focusing on what we can control, our actions and reactions, we become stronger and more capable of dealing with life's uncertainties. We no longer need to worry about what others think of us because we know we are doing the right thing, regardless of external approval. In moments of decision, when we are challenged to act, the strength of our character is what defines us. It doesn't matter what others think or expect of us, because our true essence lies in how we choose to respond to the world. Stoicism teaches us that true greatness lies in the firmness with which we remain faithful to our values without giving into external pressure. Character is not something that can be shaped by the opinions of others. It is forged in the choices we make every day, in the small moments of integrity. Sometimes being authentic requires courage because it is not easy to go against the expectations of society or those close to us. But by acting based on what we believe is right, we become stronger, more confident, and more aligned with our true nature. As Marcus Aurelius says, life is what our thoughts make it. If we cultivate a solid character guided by reason, our actions reflect this inner strength. The approval of others becomes irrelevant because our peace and happiness do not depend on it. Acting with virtue and character is the true measure of success. And this strength of character does not lie in being infallible, but in persisting, day after day, in doing what is right. When we live according to our values, in harmony with our true essence, we become more resilient, independent of the fluctuations of external opinions. True strength comes from within. When we cultivate a strong character, our actions are not driven by fear of judgment or the need to please. They are driven by the desire to be who we truly are. Socrates, with all his wisdom, left us a powerful lesson about self-sufficiency. For him, true happiness did not come from wealth, social status, or the approval of the masses. It came from knowing oneself and the ability to live according to one's own principles without depending on external factors. As he said, "Who is rich? He who is content with what he has." Being self-sufficient, in Socrates' view, does not mean being isolated or indifferent to the needs of others. It means being able to find contentment and inner peace, regardless of external circumstances. True freedom lies in not depending on the opinions of others, in being able to act based on reason and virtue, even when the world around us tries to convince us otherwise. Instead of seeking external validation, Socrates teaches us to focus on what really matters, cultivating our mind, knowledge, self-knowledge, and practicing virtues. When we become self-sufficient, we are no longer at the mercy of the fluctuations of other people's opinions. Happiness ceases to be a distant goal and becomes an everyday reality, based on our ability to live according to our own values. Stoicism, like the teachings of Socrates, invites us to look within, to know ourselves deeply. True strength comes from emotional and mental self-sufficiency. We do not need anyone's approval to feel complete. We are sufficient on our own. Stoicism teaches us that we should live in harmony with nature, which means accepting what we cannot control and acting rationally with what is within our reach. This idea of living in alignment with nature reminds us that, just as nature follows its course without concern for the approval of others, we too should follow our path without concern for the judgment of others. Nature, in its essence, does not care about the whims or expectations of human beings. Trees do not try to please the birds that perch on them, and rivers do not seek the approval of those who observe them. They simply exist and fulfill their function without the pressure of pleasing anyone. In the same way, our lives should be guided by natural principles, acting with reason, seeking self-knowledge, and living according to our values. When we seek to please everyone, we are going against this natural harmony. We are trying to force an artificial adaptation, ignoring who we really are and what we really need. Stoicism invites us to abandon this struggle and accept our true nature. Only then can we live in peace and find the serenity that comes from accepting what is, without the need for external validation. As the philosopher Epictetus reminds us, man is not disturbed by things, but by the opinion he has about things. Accepting what we cannot change and focusing on what is within our reach allows us to live more peacefully, in harmony with our nature and that of the world around us. We do not need to fight against the flow of life, but learn to flow with it, acting with wisdom and authenticity. When we free ourselves from the need to please everyone, we experience a sense of freedom that is difficult to describe. This freedom does not come from the absence of challenges, but rather from the choice to be true to ourselves, regardless of external expectations. Stoicism teaches us that true freedom lies in our attitudes, in the choices we make, and in the way we react to life's situations. It is important to remember that freedom is not doing whatever we want at all times, without limits. True freedom is acting based on solid principles, with wisdom and virtue. The freedom to be who we are means being able to make authentic decisions, not because we want to please others, but because we know that they reflect our true essence. Socrates, in his constant search for knowledge and truth, also teaches us that freedom lies in not being enslaved to the opinions and expectations of others. On the contrary, he believed that true freedom comes from a life of constant questioning and reflection, where we seek to live according to our own beliefs without bowing to social pressure. When we stop worrying about what others think, when we accept that we cannot please everyone, we find new space to grow. And this space allows us to be more authentic, more connected to our purpose, and ultimately, more free. Freedom comes from within, not from external circumstances, and this is the greatest lesson we can learn from the Stoic philosophers and Socrates. Throughout our journey, one thing becomes increasingly clear. Living with purpose is the key to true happiness. When we stop trying to please everyone and focus on acting in accordance with our own values, we find a deep sense of satisfaction. Stoicism teaches us that our purpose should be aligned with virtue, with the greater good, and not with the relentless pursuit of external approval. Socrates, in his search for truth, said, "The greatest reward for those who seek knowledge is the pleasure of learning." And this is how we should approach life, as a journey of self-discovery, where the goal is not to please others or be accepted, but to live with authenticity and integrity. When we dedicate ourselves to acting in accordance with our purpose, without the pressure of pleasing everyone, our lives take on deeper meaning. Living with purpose does not mean living without challenges. On the contrary, life is full of obstacles and difficulties, but when we are clear about what really matters, we are stronger to face them. Stoic philosophy teaches us to cultivate a solid purpose based on virtue and reason, and to let go of concerns about social acceptance. This gives us the strength we need to get through difficult times with serenity and confidence, and in the end, what really matters is the legacy we leave behind by living with purpose, integrity, and truth. When we decide to stop trying to please everyone but to live true to what we believe, we find the inner peace that comes with knowing that we are on the right path. We don't need external validation to know that we are living a meaningful life. And so when we reflect on everything we have discussed, we come to the conclusion that living to please everyone is a mistake that only distances us from our true essence. Stoic philosophy, together with the teachings of Socrates, teaches us that true freedom does not come from the acceptance of others, but from the courage to live according to our own principles and values. Every choice we make should be guided by virtue, not by the expectations of others. When we free ourselves from this need for approval, we are able to live with more purpose, authenticity, and serenity. True peace comes from within, and that is what we should strive for every day. If you feel inspired to live according to your own principles and leave behind the burden of pleasing everyone, subscribe to the channel. Here we seek to reflect on how ancient philosophies can transform our lives and guide us towards a more fulfilled and authentic existence. Don't miss the next videos and continue the journey of self-discovery. Thank you for watching until the end.